again, again, again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you, as always, from Studio B here at the Co-Prosperity Sphere. Things are a little bit different. I'm a little bit on edge. You guys can probably already tell. But nonetheless, I do want to thank Lumpen Radio for having me on. And I want to thank the fearless leaders of Lumpen Radio, Mr. Logan Bay and Mr. Jamie Trecker, for assuring me that all my concerns are silly and shouldn't be worried about. So thanks, Jamie. You're always there to belittle my needs, and that's you're like the dad I never wanted. But thanks to everyone out there who is listening on the airwaves, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio. If you're tuned in via the actual radio dial, if you still have one of those things for now, I think they're going away quickly. But also, if you're listening via the streaming services, TuneIn Radio, there's a really cool Lumpen Radio app that you can also download. If you are listening live, you can hop into the live chat room that Lumpen Radio hosts. It's at tlk.io/WLPN. It's funny, I think 3 different people tweeted out that they were in there and there was nobody there. So maybe something's wrong with it, because I don't know how that's possible for 3 people to all be the only person there, unless they all were in there for a moment and then left. So anyway, sorry guys, but you can get in there and get back to what you guys do best, which is doing what Jamie does best, which is belittling me, which is what the chat room kind of came to be known for a bit. But thank you guys nonetheless for hopping on and listening. If you're listening via iTunes, never mind, it's gone now, right? iTunes is no more, or soon will be no more. If you're listening via podcasts, they're getting rid of iTunes. So I guess it'll just have to be whatever.
They're not getting rid of podcasts.
They're not getting rid of podcasts, but they're getting rid of iTunes. So I guess it would be the podcast app.
There you go.
Maybe call it Your Tunes.
Your Tunes. iTunes, my tunes, your tunes. Thanks is what I'm trying to say. And
can you get the show on Spotify, Chris?
You know what? I saw a way to do that like a year ago, and I never looked further into it. So, yes, one is able to do that. I don't know if I don't think I did it. Maybe I did. So someone try and send me a letter and let me know if you're able to do that. If you are listening for the first time, what I like to do is give you guys a little bit of a idea of what this show is all about, and essentially that this show, the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable, is what my best recreation of some of what I love best about beer, which is getting around a table with some beers with people who are passionate about craft beer and who have made it a part of their life in some way, whether it's making beer or selling beer or writing about beer or doing podcasts about beer or just loving drinking beer or loving running caustic and acid through beer lines, however you make your living or however you involve beer in your life, getting people who just live beer on a daily basis and just sitting down and talking about beer stuff, and that's what this show tries to recreate, the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. And with that, I will start introducing my guests. But before I do, I will mention that the opinions of my guests are their own, and only their own, and are not the opinions of any other entity that they may be related. May be related to. Sorry, I'm having some incoming calls. Andy Crouch is trying to Skype. So, Mr. Matt Arata, I might ask you to help me do that. But anyway.
Just answer the phone, man.
Just answer the phone? Okay. I'll do it. Is that how I do it? Okay. So anyway, there he is. Not even a deep V. So anyway, yeah. So let's get to it. Like I said, a little bit out of sorts, but I'll settle down. I'll calm down. I'll stop shaking. So let's start introducing my guests. I always do it in order of seniority. That being how many times they've been on the show. That's a no-no. Look at me me yelling at the producer. Now you know how out of sorts things are. That's usually their job is to yell at me.
We have a handy sign here just in case we forget.
Yeah, that Drew put together. No beer here.
Because I make that mistake every time. I was like, I'm not going to do it this time. I have a plan.
Good for you.
I have a plan.
That's good for you. But Matt, you are the senior member of the panel today, whatever you want to call it, the round table. What's new with you, Mr. Matt Arata?
Am I still? I haven't been in here in months.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you are.
I don't know. Well, I'm glad you did ask me to come back at least, even though I haven't been in here in a long time.
And you were on episode 1.
Yeah.
So that makes you senior.
What number are we on now?
175 or 6 or something. Yeah. So a lot of episodes later.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weeks. It's a lot of 2-hour shows. Man, I don't want to think about it now how much time I've spent here. But what's new with you?
Low this, low that. Got
Great.
some projects in the
Great.
work.
Off to a great start.
Got some projects in the work.
A lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, some irons in the fire. I don't know. I was waiting until the what beer have you been drinking recently? I had an answer for that.
Oh, got it.
So
okay, so come back to you then.
Or I could just jump the gun. There's
no.
Okay.
Don't.
Okay.
No.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. I don't know. I think Mr. Andy Crouch, is the next most senior member. What's up with you? You're looking nice and clear on the on Skype right now, so that's good. Oh wait, but you're also not on. Can you turn his mic on? Well, technically you're on, but in reality nobody can hear you.
I think he can hear us because he answered.
Oh, you can hear us? Okay. Then it's not coming through here. We'll skip him, and we'll figure that out. Maybe we can get Mr. Jamie Trecker in here, the fearless leader, and we'll go to you, Mr. Drew Larson. What's up with you?
What isn't up?
Yeah, right.
Let's see. Not getting a lot of sleep because it's summertime and everybody wants to
so you're
open
up
new bars.
You're up late.
Up late, up early, and just enjoying one of the finest beer scenes the country has to offer here in Chicago.
Yeah? How so? How are you? What have you been enjoying about it? Or just liking that there's so many options? Or
I love the fact that in Chicago, I mean, obviously we know now that we have more breweries than any other city in the country. But I also think that this is and I think that Chicago is one of the most forward cities in the country as far as draft goes and draft quality, which means there's more places to drink without having your hangovers, headaches because of dirty lines.
Okay.
And so, it really...
Is that true? Does that cause headaches or help or make hangovers worse?
Yeah, when you hear people talk about, they don't like draft beer because they feel bad the next day or they feel bad at night, it's not draft beer that's causing the problem. It is the fact that there's diacetyl, acetobacter, and all these other organisms that are growing in the lines because they weren't cleaned properly. And thus, nothing in that line that can grow can kill you, which is why there's no federal laws with the health administrations and stuff. But yeah, that'll get you in a heartbeat. When the lines are dirty, the beer doesn't taste great, and you just don't feel great the next day either. And that's far less of a problem in Chicago that I've found. I don't want anybody in San Francisco or Oregon to hate me because I've said this, but I have traveled to a lot of cities, and Chicago just tends to be really forward.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Well,
and
sorry
then this
that you're
is
not.
also the home of the Cicerone program, and I think honestly that because of that, you also have just more beer dinners. You have more people who are lawyers and doctors and bus drivers who are like the level 1 certified beer servers just because they're such beer geeks. And so when you have a city full of a clientele that knows as much or more about beer than a lot of the beer tenders, bartenders, you end up with a city where you can really find great beer and great food pairings everywhere, and I love it.
Awesome.
The key is just quality.
Well, I think we've got
Are there a lot of doctors
Yeah.
and lawyers that are
That's
level 1 Cicerones?
Cicerones.
I would be willing to bet.
I know one
that-
bridge
yes.
engineer who's a level 2 Cicerone.
See? Yeah.
took the test blind.
Well,
So-
think about this. I've always told people, especially, when I was going through culinary school and then I decided to do beer and wine, if, folks like us sit down at a dinner table, there's a brain surgeon and a politician and let's say an astronaut, a rocket scientist. The people at the table will say, rocket scientist, you're too smart. I don't understand what you're talking about. Doctor, well, my foot hurts, but you don't want to talk to me. So you're, food and beer, huh? Like, hey, I had this roast. I didn't know it was. Oh, hey, I had this Deschutes the other day, and I was. And what about, So I sit down at a table and I find people want to talk about the food and the beverage more than they want to talk to people about the science and the outer space because it's sometimes not approachable. And I think beer and food is
So
something
by that, yeah.
everybody can approach.
By that, but by that notion, I guess I should become a meteorologist because everyone wants to talk about the weather. I would assume, and I'm like, I know the weather. You want to talk about the weather? It's nice out. I think there's
You
a
got a
chance.
window? Open it.
Yeah, you got a window. Open it.
Absolutely. Well, it makes sense to be a meteorologist because you used to have to pay attention to meteorology to know when you could brew and when you had your off season. So it makes
Now,
sense to me.
I have a question. Are you, Mr. Andy Crouch, a level 1 Cicerone?
I am not, and I'm hoping that I'm actually being heard there.
You are. You are not.
Okay, good.
You are.
No,
I heard that you are not.
No.
Now, you are an attorney, though, and you do know beer.
No, I am an attorney, but I'm actually a level 99 Cicerone.
Ooh.
You guys don't know about this in Chicago yet. I know that Ray is there and he's running things, but really, it's like when you're in the Church of Scientology and you're Tom Cruise,
Right.
And you're just at different levels that people don't even know about.
Oh, it's a super
That's-
secret level.
Right.
That's the level.
Well,
I'm
he
at.
just gave it away, though.
Yeah.
Basically,
But no, it's level 99s can give it away, but it's people above me. Then that's the real.
so basically, whenever Pat
Randy
Fahey,
Mosher.
he has to look to you and get your nod of approval before he crushes a beer. This is essentially what it is.
This is just how it is, and I can rewrite the style guidelines at any
That's
point.
what you
There's
get
just
to
a lot
do
of-
at
there's a-
99.
I just call Charlie Papazian up and tell him to do stuff. Like it's my job. That's what you do at level 99.
That way, you
It's-
can never be wrong because you could just change the guidelines to whatever you just said.
This is literally how I've been doing it my whole career. I've never been wrong because no one could tell me I'm wrong.
Right, that's
I
right.
must be wrong. So,
What else is new with you other than attaining level 99?
That's been a lot of my life, as you know, is anybody who is involved in Cicerone or CrossFit or anything like that, or vegans. They
Yeah.
love to talk about, their vegan CrossFit Ciceroning. So besides the Ciceroning, busy being an attorney, like you said. It just it's all law all the time right now. It's not a lot of fun, but occasionally hit up Twitter, do some of that. But really,
Yeah,
right
I see
now,
you on
it's-
beer Twitter every now and then.
Yeah, I throw one tweet out every 2 or 3 days, and people get angry at it, and then I come back and realize there's mentions and things I'm supposed to look at, and then I get emails from you every once in a while, and I respond to them 3 or 4 days later, and I show
Yep.
up 10 minutes late to the show.
That's fine.
With stuff that doesn't even work, but I'm just happy to be here.
No, it was, I think, entirely us, but I do like your really nice white headphones. They're very, very cool.
Yeah, I had to get these to be on a.
Oh, we'll never know. We'll never know. He froze. I had to get these to be on a. There you go.
Cliffhanger.
It was a
Oh, yeah.
cliffhanger. Yeah, you froze.
Okay, yeah, you froze at that point. But it's like I had to get these to be on an even fancier podcast than beer podcast than your podcast.
Oh man.
And so
Jeez.
yeah, for years I've just been rocking the tiny white T-shirt,
Yeah.
the deep V, and like busting it out on an old iPad. But now the iPad is so old that it will no longer update Skype. So, which is
awesome.
why you're like, oh, the video quality is nice. Yeah, it's because I'm actually using, I'm upgrading it.
An
for this-
actual
for this-
piece of computer technology. Well, tell me what podcast were you on? That's fancier than mine, so people can
That was
listen to it.
that was the Full Pint podcast.
Oh, nice. Yeah, with
So I was
Danny.
on there a while ago, and I had to get a USB mic, and he was all fancy about it, and I was like, whatever. And then I thought I'd never use it again until tonight, but it's good. But I got on that program and talked with him a month or two back, and I talked about some subjects that the last time I was on your show did not really go over that well. So
That
in terms
show.
of-
That's the thing, Andy. That show never went out on the air. That's a lost
Oh, didn't it?
episode. It did
Oh,
not.
is it? Okay.
That's a
It's
lost
probably-
episode.
it's
It's not.
probably-
It's not secret, but that was a lost episode.
Live only.
that-
Otherwise,
was live
it
only.
disappeared.
Yeah. So it's been really long time since you've been on to some
Yeah.
people.
Okay. I didn't know that because that episode had been that was a little. There were some things that went on that night. It's probably for the best that got lost.
Yeah, that was a weird. Oh yeah. It was an intentionally lost episode.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me. That's
Yes.
one that certain people involved at that podcast decided maybe was not the best
Yeah.
thing that should go out.
That was me who
Okay,
made that
that-
decision. But
Okay, that
anyway,
makes
now we're
sense.
having an inside conversation that only you and I get because literally it
Yeah.
never went out over the
Never,
air.
never went on. Okay.
But,
Thousands
Talked
of
on-
people in the south side of Chicago also heard it, Chris.
That's true.
And we can't see him either, so it was really between you guys.
That's true. That's right. So
Yeah.
have
Only
we
half of
talked?
the panel
Have
here
we
can see the
talked
video,
since
so.
the announcement about the magazine getting shut down?
I think we might have talked the last time, but I'm not sure that it was totally done. So we got the PDF version of Beer Advocate magazine, which I got to say, if you love reading things in uncomfortable formats,
Yeah.
you will love reading this PDF because it's great stuff. So, but no, since then, I've been doing a little less writing, a lot more legal work, but hopefully next time I'm on your show in a few months from now, we'll have something more interesting to announce.
Okay, I'm down with that. Hopefully, you're still keeping up with beer, but I'm sure your opinions on beer will be made known in sooner rather than later. And
Probably.
my final guest, last but not least, Ms. Carrie Kortokrax of the Shoots.
You always say it with a question mark. Kortokrax?
Kortokrax, and you're always like, it's not that hard. There's certain names that I just am not the best at.
You did it perfect.
Okay, thank you. So you're with the Shoots. What's up? I guess is what I was trying to say. How are you?
Shoots. What's up? I'm good. I'm
Good.
Just fighting the good
Fighting
fight.
the fight, man.
Fighting the good fight.
We had Andrew Tater on the last episode from Off Color, and he was talking about the fight, man. That's when I was like, hey, what's new with you? He was just like, wham. Well, it's a grind out there, and people have to try harder and be more passionate, and we have to fight for this stuff, and we can't let big beer win, and all that sort of stuff.
People
So,
are dropping like flies.
yeah.
Yeah.
I heard. Let's start this off on a high note, on a positive note. I got the term someone referred to it as, to me, was a quote bloodbath is what's going on right now, and it's
Yeah.
funny to like the end consumer. I don't think that's what they're seeing at all, but
That's good.
bloodbath,
That's good that
bloodbath.
they're not
When you're
seeing it.
making, $100 million a year, and you start bleeding off money, you can still produce your product and put it out to the market. So I can see where the end consumer doesn't realize how much trouble or how much very big breweries, craft breweries, are hurting right now.
Yeah,
And macro.
And
Yeah.
macro.
everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And when you see some of the studies that are showing the breweries that are going up, because you'll see, this brewery just gained 25%, this one's 37%. What I'm seeing in those breweries those are the newer ones that are out. And so when you have a newer brewery, right, we're still in an industry where everybody wants something new. If it's not new, it's old, and nobody wants anything old because everybody is used to new. So the new breweries have growth where the old breweries are starting to recede. Or you have an established brewery that gets bought by a big brewery, and then it blows up for a little bit because there's a huge amount of marketing dollars that were never there.
Pipe fill and all that sort of stuff.
Eventually, that'll pull back a little bit too. But, business isn't easy. And when you're making the same thing that more people have made than any other time in the history of our country, that's a competitive market, especially when the younger generations are starting to say, I don't want to spend that much money. I don't want to take in that many calories. I don't have enough money to spend $18 on a 4-pack.
Right. Oh, yeah. And there's plenty of them.
I have to put that in my budget. It's a budget line. Beer
now. That's funny.
But it's there. That's what matters.
Well, let's get going with beers that we've had lately that have been interesting to us. Carrie, do you want to start? You're just going to keep going?
Interesting or just delicious?
Of note.
So, working in beer, sometimes you get stuck in your lane of drinking your stuff. But I had the opportunity to attend probably one of the best supplier events on Sunday. It was the Unibrew bowling event. And so I was drinking a lot of Blanche de Chambly and La Fin de Monde. And it's just nice to go back to some of those world-class breweries that people tend to forget about in times like these. So that was something delicious. I usually have a Union Jack here or there. And then I also had the opportunity to do a tour at Weiner recently. And I found that they were...
I just did a tour at Weiner as well.
You did. We should have planned that.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. And it's cool to see how much has changed with the plant since I was last there.
Which is the building that they're in. Mm-hmm. Yep. Like a very sustainable, they're trying to have like a closed loop system ideally or close to it. Or
Yes.
Describe for a second again what the plant is. I know, just...
Well, I'm not a spokesperson for
just
the plant,
generally
but
what
it's...
Because when you say the plant, some people might think it's just like their operation, the plant.
It's an old meat packing building that they've turned into what I would say is a community space where they are renting out spaces. I don't know the whole business plan of it, but there's a lot of shared space with, innovators and, small businesses, anywhere from... honey to ice cubes are being made there.
Like high-end ice cubes.
With
stuff inside them.
And then there's also like this, full circle sustainable thing that they have going on with fish and vertical gardens. They have a biodigester. They're utilizing spent grains in large capacities. So it's just a really cool, beautiful building, and I think it's in the back of the Yards neighborhood.
It's like a commercial co-op.
Yeah.
Focused on sustainable methods of doing things.
Yeah. So I know like the spent grain goes to some other use right there within the building, and then there's something that produces algae.
Yes.
And then the algae gets pumped up into the tilapia farm, and the tilapia eat the algae. And then
fertilize it.
Right, and then the tilapia fertilize the plants that are growing. Yeah,
they recapture the CO2 blow off.
Yes,
somehow.
Yes, they do.
If Adam Schulte is listening, I would very much like to come visit.
Oh yeah, it's a cool space, and
that sounds phenomenal.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed about, and I'm not being disparaging with any local breweries or anything like that. It's just
be disparaged.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So what I thought was really cool is that across the board, their beers were just really clean and well executed and drinkable. And I think that, that's a conversation maybe for another show that we can have of just like, when you look at people, some people are one-hit wonders. Some people, we get a lot of like feedback that maybe we don't make the most exciting beers at Deschutes, but we make really clean, well-made beers, and I think there's something to be said for that. And breweries like Weiner and breweries like Half Acre that put out really good, just clean beers. I mean, I had a Kolsch there, which you wouldn't think would be the style that I would choose to start off with, but I'm a big snob and judge of those styles of beer because I worked for a German restaurant for 4 years, and I thought it was fantastic. And it's cool to see someone that is like kind of in this lane going out, and it takes a lot to make a good, clean German style beer.
And also the stuff they're doing at Weiner, I don't know if anybody is quite doing it the way that they're doing it, where they do some clean fermented beer, then they do some stainless Brett beer, and then they do some oak Brett fermented beer, all the same base, that then gets all blended into their flagship. So their flagship has 3 different fermentations, then blended, and it's crazy.
A thing of beauty.
Yeah, yeah.
What's
No, there's a lacto one. That's what it is. There's like a soured one, a barrel fermented one, and a clean one, and it's
and that
crazy.
all gets blended together. What's that one called?
La Tub.
Mm.
Yeah,
The tub.
the tub.
Carrie, I agree with you that like trying a brewery's Kolsch is sometimes a quick, simple way to gauge just off the bat how well they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
like because it should taste exactly one way.
Yeah.
Well, it's
and if
funny.
it doesn't really taste like
There's
that,
one
then
very successful brewery in Andy's backyard that has a Kolsch that does not taste that way. It's not bad, but have you ever had the Kolsch from Trillium, Andy? Oh. Is he off?
I've had plenty
there
of
you
different beers from Trillium over the years. I think when they tend to get into outside of their hazy wheelhouse, things go off the rails pretty quickly.
It tasted to me like an IPA but when I had their Kolsch. But, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it's funny you're saying, like, it's a good judge and it should taste one specific way. And I think they're doing just fine. And their Kolsch is essentially a New England-style IPA. At least to my memory, that's what it was. It was pretty fun.
That's pretty true to form. They're
That's awesome.
Well, it's more about, I guess, how well they make a Kolsch.
just like a lot of
Yeah. Andy's being robotized and going to time sinks and stuff like that. How about you, Matt? What have you had lately that you've liked?
Oh, okay. Well, there's a new brewery in Oak Park called One Lake. It's right on the border of Oak Park and the west side of Chicago, so it's in a really interesting location, kind of a pioneering location, you might say. And they just opened 2 weeks ago or so. So I was there the other day trying out their
Brand
stuff.
new.
I'm excited for them for what they're trying to do and where they're at in their location, stuff like that, because I don't know if you're familiar with the geography of that area of Chicago.
Not very much.
Well, when I say it's a pioneering location, it is.
Okay.
It's like right on the border, and the west side of Chicago in that area is a very
It's the best. It's the best part.
not the best neighborhood. So development in that area and on that border is good, and maybe it will do some interesting things too.
That's cool.
to promote that area
that
of
part
town.
of the city could definitely use some development. It's weird when you drive from that part of town into Oak Park.
Yeah.
It's like there is a line,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no transition.
No.
It's like, wow, this is really nice. This not very nice.
Yep. You just cross one street, and it's a totally different environment.
It's crazy. Drew, anything you've had lately that you've liked?
I'm going a little bit different because the beer that really kind of flipped my switch the last couple of weeks was not made by a brewery, but by a gentleman named Jim Cummins, who's just an avid home brewer, and he brought in an Oud Bruin. And getting sours at the home brew level is not an easy thing to do. And, I mean, if I hadn't known that it was his brew, I wouldn't have known that it wasn't coming from Belgium. It was fantastic, and it kind of just got me excited again for a little bit of sour. but the kind that doesn't cause heartburn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally.
So I was like, after that, I grabbed up a couple of bottles of old sours and things like that. But otherwise, I would say in the last 3 weeks, there's only the 3 beers that I bought for my house were actually Deschutes, and I'm not saying that to
Sure,
to
you're not.
I am not kissing up. It was literally Deschutes because the fresh haze is just phenomenal beer. The Revolution. The the Golden Cross.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
Cross of Gold.
I've been up since 4.
Oh, okay.
That I absolutely love that beer because it's just so easy to drink. Because at the end of a day, when your brain is fried and you want a beer, you want to relax, you want just something refreshing. It is a beer that is just wholly satisfying. That doesn't exhaust your palate or your brain. So it's eminently crushable. But 18-pack, like
I was
the
going to say,
big
is that a
guys used to
15
do.
pack? It's an 18
Yeah,
pack.
or maybe it was the 15-pack for $15 or less. I was like, hey, that's
Yeah,
So
good
not
beer.
only is it eminently crushable, but great beer there. And then obviously, I've always been a huge fan of the Dovetail Lager, and that was the third one that was purchased for my house in the last few weeks.
Very cool. For me, I've had 2 beers that I've liked lately. Beer Hates Astronauts comes out every year from
yeah.
Half Acre. It used to be, I think, a smash beer, a single malt, single hop. I don't know if it still is. I don't know if it makes sense to use only Citra, but it's definitely a very Citra-heavy IPA. It's, I don't know if you guys know that, but Citra is a very popular hop, and it's got
Oh,
this real juicy,
really?
fruity quality to it. It's very good. So I like that. But then we also put on Einger's Jahrhundert, which is their Dortmunder, but I think it's like unfiltered or unpasteurized, rather, or something. And it's delicious. I'm sure Carrie, having
that beer.
been, that's a special one. So we had that. How about you, Andy? High Life, I'm assuming?
It's High Life all the time.
Champagne.
Does White Claw kind of cut into your High Life drinking?
Sometimes you just want a clear beverage that has no flavor and basically no aroma. And you might be confused, and your kids might drink it, and maybe it's safe for them or maybe it's not, So,
Right. It's true.
Nobody at the party knows if they picked up an adult beverage. So that's just great. And
It's
so-
not meant for the party. It's actually meant for the kitchen crew as they're cleaning up after shift. That is the
it's
number
really-
one
it's-
place.
It's good for everything. You can clean your counters in your kitchen with it, and it smells nice. Or get you drunk if you don't have to pee a million times in between.
Well, I guess first what I should mention is that you're listening to WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. Producer Anna, are we gonna do some station ID stuff? Or are we doing that?
Time for the ads and everything?
Yes,
Oh,
we're gonna do that. So why don't we listen to some ads,
all right. Ready, guys?
and then we'll come back after that with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. See you then. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by my guests, Carrie, Kortokrax, Drew, Larson, Matt, Arata, and probably Andy Crouch, the beer scribe. He's probably there. He's going back and forth. I think he's paying bills. What bills are you paying this episode, Andy?
No, I actually had to go downstairs and grab another beer because this show goes on forever and ever, and I have to be well hydrated. So
Yes.
And you skip me in what beers people have been drinking.
Go for it. Well, we had to do our thing.
So I basically only drink High Life.
Okay.
And whatever samples come my way. So I will pitch this delicious beer from Allagash is called Tiny House.
Ah.
It is basically 3.4% alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It's melon, grapefruit, subtle malt, they say. And I got to tell you, it smells and tastes beautiful. And it's 3.4%. And I just
they don't mess around.
Tonight I'm just sitting here thinking how much I love Allagash and how much we maybe should every once in a while revisit old favorites and great old beers. And then after that, I'm going to chase it with this absolutely terrible haze bomb from Treehouse that I could probably sell and fund my child's education with. So,
Yeah. Well,
But instead, I'm just going to waste it because it's whatever, a normal Thursday night.
just
Waste it
down,
by drinking it.
Waste it down your throat. Yep.
Yep.
There you go. Well, thank you. So you're a little bit old, a little bit of new. Treehouse is, we were going to go over some kind of beer growth trends and stuff like that. Treehouse has been absolutely slaughtering it.
Things are not going well for them. They're
not
they're
at all.
I heard the line the other day was only 200 people long at like 9 a.m. So that's pretty rough. It's tough for them.
Yeah, so that's really sad to hear. But the numbers, the IRI Nielsen numbers were out. Our friends at Brewbound had a little write up for it several days ago. Chris Fernari kind of breaking that stuff down, so it's always nice to read his stuff. I will say, if anyone's heard his podcast, the Brewbound podcast, it's really good. It's definitely worth checking out. So
I especially like the end of the episode treats that they occasionally offer with regards to my Twitter usage. So that is an interesting little game that they play. And I got to admit, the first time they played it, they basically read my tweets, and they sometimes will change them. You have to decide if it's in my voice or not. And I got to say, the first time I got it, I got one wrong. I was like, not even I could sound like that big a jerk, and it turns out I was wrong.
You're wrong.
Even bigger jerk.
I can
even
sound
bigger
like
jerk
that
than
big
I
a
think
jerk.
I am.
Yeah,
so, which is pretty big.
You're a pretty big jerk. I think everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think about the fact that the drivers of growth in beer? So beer overall, let's look at it. So beer overall was up $1, so 0.5%.
Is this quarterly or annual?
This was year to date, and this was at multi-outlet and convenience stores, and that's where IRI. I mean, it's big chains is where they kind of get their numbers from.
Grocery and big box.
Yeah, which should be taken not with a grain of salt. It's very important, but it isn't the entire picture. It's not independent stores. It's not tap rooms.
The majority of sales, but not the whole picture.
Yes, I'd say so.
I don't even think that they're the big picture for the real craft consumer either. So,
like the hardcore consumer.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine somebody who would be listening to this show thinking I'm going to run over to Walmart and find myself a 6-pack.
But the grocery store,
but
you can
grocery
you can also
stores.
go over there now and get CBS at basically any grocery store in America, just sitting there warm on the floor, and they just keep discounting it. So
there you are.
Founders has that going for it.
I was at Benny's the other day, and I saw so much KBS just stacked up there, and I was like, man, this used to be impossible to get.
Yep.
You had to drive to Michigan.
Yep. I know. There was like that sweet spot where it would be around for a little bit, and then a couple years later it was gone, and now it's all over the place, turning it up, as they say. Pumpkin. Yeah, I mean, that one was... I don't even think they brought hardly any in last year because it was so overbought and then just turded it up. But anyway, IRI numbers up 0.5%, 0.5%. Dollar sales were up 2.8%. So people are buying about the same, but the price is going up a little bit. Those $16 4-packs like you were talking about, Drew.
Well, I got to say, I don't mind a $16 4-pack, and the reason being is if you make me a good product that I know that I love and I can count on it and it's always going to be there for me, then I'll go spend that $16. But remember, one of the trends right now, too, is people are drinking less beer. So I'm not intending on getting home from work and crushing 6 Bud Lights. I'm intending on getting home and having a 16-ounce tall of something I love while I do a little bit of work or watch some TV or whatever I do to relax, and then that's it. So in that case, the $4 I spent on that can was a well-spent $4.
Right. True. And, I mean, the other thing that I found, let's see if we can get Mr. Crouch back on the phone.
But it still means less beer overall.
Right.
Less volume, but what volume is selling slightly higher.
Yeah.
Well,
Except overall volume is just barely up according to that.
And you also have to consider the opportunity to be in those sets. So not everybody just gets to walk in and have shelf space. So the growth is also dependent on how many SKUs from the brewery, what SKUs. A lot of, right now, I've noticed a lot of sets are being actually shortened by FMBs.
What's an FMB?
A flavored malt beverage.
Which is, what they're...
So the amount of beer in a grocery store is going down a little bit in favor of the flavored malt beverages.
And it also depends on who your distributor is, what kind of relationship they have with the decision makers, who are the set captains for that area, and who is writing the sets. Because that,
What does writing a set mean? Does that mean designing it?
Yeah, it's helping determine what is going to go in which space. And if you don't have the proper relationship or the proper product, proper price point, proper advertising, there's so many things that go into it that there's a lot that happens behind the scenes that people don't even realize influence what is given the opportunity to be in the set, and then also determines the sales.
So what I've noticed, and what you alluded to before, was, in some of these bigger places, they're just kind of following the trends and stuff like that. And for years, you would see craft beer taking up more and more and more shelf space, and maybe a second aisle or another cooler door and stuff like that. And what I'm seeing now is FMBs, as you call them, or seltzer, which was the big driver of growth. They were up, I think, what was it? Like some of these brands were up like 200% and stuff like that. Are eating into the beer shelf space. They're not carving out new space for them. They're not going from wine or spirits. I've noticed it's kind of being lumped into the beer section, and it's cutting into it. And
they're also helping the growth of some companies like Sam Adams, who has Truly, right? It's Truly.
Yeah, where do you think they got all that dogfish money from?
Yeah, from seltzer.
They didn't just have it.
So you have to consider all of these ingredients when you're looking at what's going on.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I primarily shop at one grocery store, and I've seen that beer aisle get a little bit shorter and the far end of the aisle get a little bit longer, where the far end is the FMB stuff and the ciders and things like that.
And even with the increase of people making 12 packs, 15 packs, 18 packs, that takes up a different kind of space than a 6-pack or a 4-pack.
Yeah, well, you get double frontage on a 15 or an 18 pack.
You can actually stack people like cans because you can stack them on the shelf and fit more product.
So the off-premise sales of hard seltzer were up 193%, and some of the biggest ones, like certain varieties of White Claw, were up over 300%. And Truly, the Sam Adams one, making that dogfish buyout money, their hard seltzer berry mixed pack was up 604% year to date. So it's
hard seltzer berry mix.
These aren't products that have been on the shelf for 10 years.
True.
And I think a lot of these huge percentages have to do with the fact that they're new. And as soon as they catch on and get a little bit of traction, it's going to blow up. Like, I saw some today for the first time, and I was like, ooh, seltzer water with alcohol is fantastic. I'm going to get a bunch of that. When are they going to start just putting alcohol in all of our drinks, like orange juice? So, no longer is there... Do I have to go find a juice aisle? I can get my mimosa for breakfast right in the alcohol aisle. Mm-hmm. So
you just gave it away. You just gave it away.
In the future, we're just going to have the aisle of non-alcoholic stuff. It's like, here's where you go for no alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, swap departments. The little side space is going to be just for non-alcoholic juices.
But why do you guys think that seltzer is growing so rapidly? Why is that it was Mexican imports, and hard seltzer is driving overall category growth. Those two areas.
The seltzer, I would say, is our trend toward health. People see seltzer and they think, oh, it's water, so it's much healthier for me. I would argue that a beer is probably healthier. And I'm saying argue. If there's a doctor, call in. And the reason I'm
There's a
saying
lawyer that he likes to argue.
because inside of that beer, at least
none
I've got
none of it's healthy for you.
I've got it's all got to do with quantities and perspective. I mean, humanity wouldn't be around without beer. So there's definitely a bell curve to it. But in beer, you've got proteins and carbohydrates and all these other things. You start getting into these seltzer waters, and you start getting chemicals you can no longer name again. But seltzer is a lighter product, and the next generation, because every generation steers away from what their generation of parents drank, and we're going toward a healthier lifestyle. So
I don't want your artisan beer, old man.
Yeah. So I'm going to drink
have this.
and I'm going to pour some gin into it and rock and roll.
But you have to look at, too, just, there's the craft beer consumer, and then there's just the consumer. So the consumer that's buying still water, carbonated water, and then transitioning over. So when the people buying sparkling water want to have a beverage, they might be thinking about having a vodka soda. So then what has happened? They've just given them the opportunity, instead of having to buy the vodka and soda, by putting alcohol in the soda water. And they've got this nice little under 100-calorie beverage.
Or right around 100.
That fits in with their keto diet or whatever they're on.
Well, if you're on a keto diet, you should be slapped anyways.
Uh-oh. Whoa, all right.
Sorry.
Here we go.
I do
Are you
have a
sorry?
background in health, in exercise physiology, nutrition.
I'm just saying.
We won't-
I'm with
might be
Jillian
buying
Anderson.
it.
It's absolutely bad for the human body. Let's keep talking about beer.
Let's talk about beer. Let's talk about
We were
seltzer.
talking about malt beverages.
Let's
We
talk
were-
about FMBs. Why do you think, Andy, that hard seltzers seeing this huge rise? And also, do you think it's going to be a sustained rise, or is this just the next thing and people are going to move on?
I think it's
We see these trends come and go over the years, and they're here for a couple years. And we had tea, we had cider, we have seltzer, and maybe seltzer sticks around a little longer because people perceive it to be cleaner and lighter. It is certainly one of the most inoffensive alcoholic beverages I can imagine, because I drink a lot of seltzer, I drink a lot of sparkling water, flavored water, and this is almost indistinguishable. Like, you could have this at a party, literally with children, feed it to children, and they would not know the difference. It's not like a beer or booze or something like that. Well, they know they're drinking alcohol. Like, nobody would know.
Andy's really advocating for feeding children alcohol.
Yeah.
or hiding
that's-
or drinking.
Hey, I grew up in Chicago, and we were subjected to drinking at very early ages there. So it's I don't have any huge problem with that. But I gotta say, like, the seltzer's inoffensive. It's boring. I just can't imagine personally ever wanting to drink that, because it just like I don't really drink vodka sodas, because I'm not just looking for an alcohol intake. I'm looking for some sort of an experience. And there are places like Boston Beer Company that are making a mint off of this after they made a mint off of twisted tea and other beverages, and that's great. That's what sustains the company, because it's certainly not
Beer.
Sales of summer ale and other things. But at the end of the day, and I understand why a lot of breweries chase these dollars, but it's a boring trend, and it's one that happens, and I assume it'll stick around because it's such an inoffensive beverage, and I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
I can't get excited about it.
Does the Brewers Association separate out Sam Adams beer versus their Truly and Twisted Tea?
I don't
find
think
that
so.
very, 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 very interesting.
Yeah. Well, they want to keep those numbers up, right? Right?
Yes.
They want the growth to stay. They also keep...
Well, I mean, okay, so your IRI data though includes it, right?
Yeah.
And who else is in? I mean, if there's only 3 categories of alcohol: wine, spirits, and everything else is malt beverage, then everything else is in that third category, right?
There's more.
Right, but Nielsen and IRI include stuff that's not included in the BA definition. I mean, you're getting in the weeds there, but like they're talking in this article on Brewbound about, for example, Founders All Day IPA is up 16.5%, and Elysian Space Dust is up 30%. Those are both not considered, craft by the BA standards. Now, the funny thing is, I would tend to think that there's also a story there. That's not what I was talking about right now. We can get to it, but I think that's some suppression from. Could someone shut that door? Someone's just literally standing in Studio A screaming, but whatever. What else is new?
It's called performance
Oh,
art.
sorry.
Bridgeport.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Drew. I think that it's so getting back to seltzer for a moment. So I had the first one last night. We were talking about it. We had, for a private event, people had asked us to bring some in, to Truly, in fact. And we had one can left. So we pulled it out. And it's a very, I can see how it's looking at like people who are more health conscious, because it has like the slender can, and it's very
Yeah, man. Skinny
white.
cans mean they're better for you.
I mean,
They're skinny.
totally. Yeah. I totally think that is on purpose. And we tried it. To me, it tasted like a LaCroix that had maybe half the carbonation of LaCroix. It was the blood orange, and at the end, you maybe got a little bit of an alcohol flavor. I mean, slight, but it really tasted like nothing.
But that's the beauty of that beverage.
Oh,
It's
you can
basically
put them down. You can put them down.
Yeah, it's a beverage. It's a beverage for zombies, and that's totally fine. Everyone loves it. Like it's such a universal, simple flavor that I imagine that should go crazy. And if you're a craft brewer, of course you should be trying to sell that, because you have to compete against. I mean, everything is either $20 4-packs or we're sitting here heralding the buck a beer $15 15-packs, and like those are the things that are just skewering craft beer right now. So if you can make some money on the side selling carbonated alcohol water, get at it. Get that money.
I have two things.
Yes.
One is that I was at an event at Bitter Pops. They had a customer.
It's a local
local
beer on and off
slashy.
premise. It's a slashy.
It's a slashy. So they had a supplier appreciation night where they invited a lot of beer reps there and some other spirit and wine reps. What I found very interesting and somewhat comical is when you look around the room, all of our friends in the beer industry were drinking Wild Basin, which is Canarchy's version of seltzer.
No.
Yes. And it was delicious.
Was it?
It was. I mean, there's just a time and a space, I feel
Was
like,
somebody
for
promoting
almost,
that night?
No.
There?
It was just
It was just a
everyone's
regular
choice.
menu item?
Yeah, it was just everyone's choice was like, I just want
Nothing.
because if you
Because
think
all
about
all your beer reps have been drinking all day.
sampling, it's
Sampling.
work.
Right.
But
It's telling,
yeah,
though.
it was very interesting. And then the other point I was going to make is I actually did a lot of research on this last year, maybe I think it was last year. So I put together a whole presentation for our company because we were looking at not only seltzer but just different beverages outside of just the beer lane. And this trend we don't see going away, but it's not something necessarily like every brewery should go out and try to make one, because you're still going to be competing with Truly and White Claw and the people that are in the sets that you're not going to get into. The other thing is that from the hard seltzers, it's just going to translate into the CBD waters and the THC waters.
Yeah.
So this is not going to go away.
What do you think? What would be your opinion on a small, maybe on-premise brewery definitely having an option in that regard?
Yeah, 100%.
Should they have one? Will they sell it all
Like
day?
I would
in-house
say if
or
they can do
to
it,
send out?
if they have the ability to produce without investing a lot of money, I think that, I don't know if they have spirits or wine, but another option. But you have a lot of people that go into places and are seltzers gluten-free? Yes. I would imagine.
I think so. They're all
I don't know if they're malt,
dextrose.
but
They're dextrose. I don't know if they have to be malt, do they? I know that you can do them with just dextrose and so sugar. Just literally put sugar in it.
yeah, I really don't. I don't know the production side of it.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say, I
mean,
sort of assume that it's not a brewed product, that it's a carbonated flavored product, that you have standard just
Some of them are,
alcohol
Yeah, I
added
think
to
that-
it.
but some of them are definitely brewed. And
Oh,
I know a
that's-
lot of the breweries who are doing them, I don't think they're distilling them and then putting them back in. I think it's brewed. And I know at least one place who does it, which is a tiny shop who does it, but I'm guessing there's kind of standard ways to do it, and they're doing 100% dextrose.
And I would say,
but I don't know if that's normal or not.
And I would say to answer that, like, if it fits your consumer, if you feel like there's a niche, then they should go with their gut and do what they need to do. Like, but I don't think people should be following trends all the time.
Yeah.
I know we're in that space right now.
I'm just-
it's a
and
very
have been
scary
for years.
And we have been for years, but I think sometimes it's just good to be who you are. And
I'm just thinking
stay
about
that way.
a tap room kind of place that they can, in Illinois at least, they can now do wine, right? But they still can't do booze.
Cider, yeah.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, a malt beverage like that might be a replacement.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think breweries should definitely just do, what is good for them, and I think, and they should definitely not follow trends, which is why we barely see any New England style hazy IPAs around the country. This is just, it's not. So they're all, we're still in that mode where breweries are just doing their own thing, making beers for themselves.
Oh, that's a tweet of yours.
No, everybody's
Yeah.
sniffing everyone's tails, but
Yeah.
it's not successful for everyone to do that, is my point.
Yeah.
Well, when you chase gimmicks, you don't build loyalty. And when you don't have loyalty, then the next gimmick will pull a person away from your brand.
Are beer drinkers
I gotta
loyal
tell you.
these days?
Well, and that's
a good. That's fair.
That's part of the point I'm getting to is that, it's hard to do because there isn't brand loyalty.
What's up, Andy?
much.
I'm just gimmicks define the industry right now. I mean, but the hazy IPA thing is just is what defines the industry for a large part of it, and certainly something like 4,000 or so breweries are basically trying to base their existence on the same model, and it's
as that treehouse
of course
beer you just lifted up, essentially.
and it's funny because actually this is one of the, I don't know if you guys have video or not, but of me,
It's pretty clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Actually,
That's the treehouse.
Yeah, it's treehouse, and it tastes like candy water. Like it's like, and it's a month and a half old, so like it's a
Okay.
little older, but like it's, I don't get it, but like, and some of these I get, but when we're basically, you go into places. I went out to I was in Western Massachusetts this week for work, and went to one of the 25 oldest brew pubs in the country. The Northampton Brewing Company. It's one of the maybe one of the first east of the Mississippi.
Yeah,
and
man.
their beer menu was like 30 years old, the most throwback of throwback. It was like they had a brown ale, they had an amber ale, they had a best bitter, they had an alt beer, they had a Pils.
Did they have like a fruited wheat beer?
They had a fruited wheat beer.
There you go.
Yes, they did.
Of course they did.
But they tried to say like it was sour and tart. Like it was amazing, and like drinking those old flavors is great. And they had a beer that was hazy, and I was like, "What is that?" It turned out it was a Weiss.
That's yeah. I mean, that's old school. How are they doing? Was anyone there?
We got that joke, and then he immediately dropped out.
He dropped out. Boo. I can see if he can try to.
Our
come
connection
back.
with Andy is the best today.
Yes, exactly. I wonder if they're pulling some from Studio A. Who knows?
This entire performance behind me is all internet based.
Yeah, it's all streamed probably. So let me see. I'll probably just end the call and try calling him back. But what was I going to say?
I just turned around and looked out there. I'm glad I'm not looking out there.
And
I
now
guess.
you're just curious what on earth is
What is
happening.
going on out there?
Oh boy, never mind.
I also think that we
Yeah.
need to differentiate between like a trend and also, just what's really resonating. Because it's
Right,
like,
that's
it's,
true.
It's like
That's true.
it doesn't necessarily have to be a style, but a flavor profile. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Absolutely.
Like,
Like I was saying with you earlier, that
Yes.
one of the things I really truly enjoy is the actual citrus and
Juicy.
flavor and juiciness of hops, but I don't like bitterness. So I like things like Fresh Haze because they don't put the hops in the front of the boil, they pull it toward the back, and they keep it they keep it juicy, and so that's a flavor that I look for. So I like the point you're making. I look for that flavor. So I don't care that it's hazy or crystal clear or thick like syrup. I care about the flavors I like.
And it's like a gateway IPA too for the there's so many new craft consumers. I feel like there's a lot of new craft consumers that I can't tell you how many times people have said I don't like IPAs when I've been doing tastings, and it's like, no, you got to try this because ours are a little different. They're not
ask them to
West Coast.
define IPA.
Yeah, they're not West Coast.
Coast.
Yeah, they're not West Coast. I'm like, and that's why I usually guide people to flavor words. Do you like citrus? Do you like piney? Do you like floral? Do you like chocolate?
Do you like when they say do you like piney? Do you say, well, go back in time 10 years and then have any beer because those don't exist anymore? I mean, that's the other thing that I'm kind of. There is some crazy stuff going on in Studio A, but they seem into it. So
Can't turn around.
yeah, no, I have to put on like blinders because it's distracting me. There's some sort of like dance art thing going on with like dodgeball, and it's yeah. So
piney.
totally yeah, piney.
Pine.
Those flavor. So
Piney hops does not exist today.
Yeah, piney hops does not exist. I think Andy might be there now. Oh, I think he's back.
Yeah. Computer just died. So like basically any technological problem I can have tonight just keeps happening. So.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was. I think it might be on our side too. Who knows? So I do think that this might all play into it. How there's like lighter things. People always want to go lighter, lighter, lighter. Even craft beer has been going lighter, lighter, more approachable. I would say, if anything, these hazy beers are lighter in a sense. I mean, they're certainly sweeter, but I don't think people have a problem with things being sweet. It's being bitter is when they kind of get upset with them. But yeah, I mean, I could see these seltzers going that way. Now, do you think that there's a space for a craft seltzer?
Well, there are craft seltzers.
But are they mimicking?
I
from
don't
a
think
flavor
that I don't
profile?
see any of them being successful on the level that Truly or White Claw. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, I would say that the macros usually have those kind of spaces covered, and I'm saying that, and I'm also realizing that Sam has Truly, but
Sam is the biggest
blurring the line
little
right
guy. Yeah, they're a beverage company. They are a
No,
beverage
they're craft.
company.
They're craft, Chris.
Oh, sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Just don't even they're craft. Just stop.
They're
You're
independent.
embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, they're independent.
independent.
They're craft. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a space for. I
They're
mean, I
independent, owned by
appreciate
hundreds of
the
thousands of
efforts
shareholders.
of Soundcraft and of Wild Basin and such, but I don't see it being like gonna take over anyone's.
Do you think they are of higher quality? I've only had Truly once, and so we've already asked. We've decided that we're gonna tell. And this is not entirely not true. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell them, saying we're considering bringing one in for behind the bar.
Okay.
Which is true. I don't think it's a strong consideration, but you never know.
Sure.
And say, bring in every single one that you have.
Love it.
Every flavor, every single one. And we're just going to go through all
Taste
of
them all
and
down.
drink them all. And I'm probably going to do a video.
I think you should do it
Do 'em
blind.
blind. Okay.
I would throw something in there too that's
You're gonna make yourself
non-alcoholic.
sick.
Non-alcoholic?
So, for example,
Yeah.
Lagunitas has their hop water, which
Sure.
It's delicious.
is delicious, and we got a product now that's actually non-alcohol. I know it's crazy. Everybody, slow down. There's no alcohol in it, and it's in the beer aisle.
Right.
So,
That's
as
not
we talk
confusing at all.
about taking up,
well, they're just prepping everyone for when CBD and THC.
Is it over next to the mixers?
Oh, yeah. And they're already
Yeah,
doing
it's
it in
right up there.
California.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Lagunitas already has
it's
the
in our
THC.
market until they can bring in the real deal.
and
So
it makes sense.
It doesn't sound like things are going to get better for the craft beer space. I think it's going to get more crazy.
Just more competitive.
Here's
more
the thing, though: is
competitive.
will it get better than for the craft drinker? Because
Sure. Yeah.
are we going to lose option, or are we going to end up with our options generally being higher quality. Because to
Oh
some
man, I
extent,
think it's a very mixed bag right now.
it is.
I think that you have more access to good fresh beer. You also have, I think, less access to variety now. I think so many.
Also quality.
Yeah, and some of the quality is not good now. I mean,
It's fresh, but not necessarily quality. Like
Well,
the
that's
problem
what I
is, like,
think.
there's a lot of breweries around the world that make quality beer.
yeah,
And then fighting with local
you can't
people
get it.
not making
Yeah.
quality beer. So
Fresh.
you can't get the quality German beer up against the local not so quality.
but freshness does help in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have an edge with freshness with that sort of stuff. I think it's such a mixed bag, and I do lament the fact that I think that people have switched around. But people, you said, sniffing each other's tails or something.
So eloquently.
Yes. So I think there is a little bit of that. Everyone's looking to everyone else to see what to do. And I hope we're not getting a little bit of like groupthink where everyone's just looking to themselves and not looking outward. I mean, hey, for the breweries who are doing craft seltzer, I'll say one thing. Like, I don't necessarily think that's going to be the way out for most people. I do also, that could become a slippery slope, and maybe you don't care if you're Canarchy, if you're going to be then making twisted teas and ciders and all that sort of stuff. But I do think that people need to start thinking independently and start carving out new niches for styles.
Yes.
There are producers that are doing that kind of thing.
I know people say that to me
we
all the
talked
time.
earlier about that Weiner beer.
Yeah.
You got guys local in Chicago like Off Color that are doing interesting things.
True.
It's just they're competing against all of these other options too. So even if you're really good at doing interesting, new,
get
innovative
lost, yeah.
things, you get lost as much as anybody else.
Because you got to tell people when you're doing interesting and innovative things, but when everybody is, or there's all of this information just coming at you from every.
And then
I
you
mean,
got
how many apps and how many this and I mean.
And you got guys like
It's
Dogfish
overload.
that have been doing interesting things their entire
Yeah.
lives and just get swallowed up.
Well, and then it goes back to, I think that what should or could be on the new horizon is just educating the consumer, because
Yeah.
I can guarantee if you go to a grocery store and do a little survey of where, who owns Goose Island, they're like, oh, it's Chicago Brewery.
Yeah.
Like there's a disconnect so much between this support of localness and then also like the reality of
Where
what
your
you're
stuff's
supporting.
from.
What are you
Yeah.
supporting?
Yeah.
Well,
No,
that's
I-
hard because you buy Goose Island. Yeah, you might be supporting AB, but I know a lot of people who work here in Chicago for AB, so it's kind of a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're somebody who does not
We can
want
go
to
down that.
support,
We've had that discussion on this show many times before. With craft though, it's interesting. If you think about it, so we put a hef on, and we were a little nervous about it, oddly, and it crushed, and people were like surprised that they liked it so much.
you had Keller Weiss
and
on,
loved
didn't
we had
you?
Keller Weiss on.
Yeah, that's a great
now,
one.
who packages a local hef in Chicago? We have
Dovetail.
more. They package it,
I believe it's available on draft,
right?
not in cans.
Who packages it? That's a major historic style that's great for the summer that people, I think, have liked for a long time. I'm not saying it's going to kill the hazy, but there might be room for one.
We are a very wheat driven market from
Chicago
my
always have been. Yeah,
experience.
wit beers
Wit
do
beer,
great
yep.
here. Yeah,
Elgash, White,
right.
Chainbreaker, RIP.
Yep.
But I mean, there's a lot of people that are drawn to that style here.
But no one's making one in a can that I can think of. I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure there is
I'm
one.
trying to think
Well,
of
I
someone.
assume it's because people are embarrassed because Dovetail just kills it, and they're like, we don't want to like even compete with that. They're like, whoa, we're not going to package any garbage that's not as good as that.
Except
so like,
maybe-
I respect that, and that's why Chicago backed away.
But only
Right.
only Chris can get a keg from them, and he has to go get it himself.
Right. Essentially.
Was
no, I mean,
Hagen
they're
not
distributed.
delivering anymore? Hagen,
Right.
are you listening to this? What are you talking about?
Well, guys, I do have to mention that you're listening to WLPN LP, Chicago 105.5 FM. I think it's time that producer Anna becomes DJ Anna and starts picking some tunes. She seems very excited about this prospect. It's going to be, we don't know. We'll see what we get. But either way, no matter what we get, we'll be back in, I don't know, about 10 minutes. I'm going to go check out some of this performance out here. And then we'll come back and talk more hard seltzer or any sort of beverage, whatever. We're following the trends here. But yeah, stay tuned. More soon. Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I'm joined by my guests, Andy Crouch, Carrie, Kortokrax, Drew Larson, and Mr. Matt Arata. And yeah, we were talking about alternatives to
Alternatives.
to drinking, alternatives to alternatives, and how that could affect the beer space. But yeah, I mean, we've talked quite a bit about hard seltzer. We've talked a little bit about the bloodbath, I think, as I called it. You talking, Andy?
We're actually not going to name the name that should not be spoken. I am talking.
Say.
Can you hear me at this point?
Yeah, I hear you. Say the name.
Okay,
Voldemort?
yeah. So I'm saying, are we going to not actually name the name?
Say it. Say the name. What, are you talking to me?
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, because we've literally
Oh,
we're not talking about beer in this whole show, and that's fine. We're talking. Yeah, you're talking about weed and like
Oh, yeah.
how the weed industry is going to impact craft beer.
Did he
And,
hear
Oh, yeah.
us?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he probably could hear us. He could probably hear us. I guess the
Oh
mics
yeah,
are
I'm
on.
sitting here the whole time. I'm just
Nice, nice. Yeah, absolutely. Drew
Well, then
was
you're
giving.
welcome for my diatribe on marijuana.
Yeah, he was going on and on about it. Very interesting about the health benefits and all that stuff and how it's becoming legal.
But
Now,
putting all that aside, let's get into the nitty gritty. What do you think the impact is going to be on craft beer, and how long do you think it's going to be before craft beer decides to like go all in various states? Like I live in Massachusetts, and we're one of the few states that actually have it recreationally
yeah.
allowed. But it's still actually really difficult to buy it here. Like you
I
have
heard
to stand
that.
there are maybe a dozen or 24 stores across the state. They're nowhere near where populations actually are. So basically, when anybody goes there, all the neighbors complain about people from out of town parking in their parking spots and stuff like that. But in Boston, like it's really difficult to buy. So it's not, even though we're a state that allows it, the impact here is minimal.
So, Andy, are there no
but
stores in Boston? Or is there like one store
There
in
are
Boston?
there are no there's only one store within probably 15 miles of downtown Boston
Whoa.
that sells.
why make it
And
legal then?
And it is there are two. You want to talk? It's basically you walked by this place, and but for the police officers directing traffic, you would assume it was some sort of Haze Boy can release party. Yeah,
Got it.
Because there are so many people standing in line, looking a certain way, as craft beer fans and weed fans tend to
Neckbeards,
do, standing in line out at like 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon when most other people are at work or doing something productive.
Right.
They're basically a Haze Boy canning $24 for a 4-pack, standing in line, but for weed.
Okay, so now, Carrie, Deschutes is based in Oregon, another
Yes.
state that has recreational marijuana. I was recently in, as well as you, Mr. Arata, in Denver. I mean, how did you think that did you have any perceived differences in the beer culture of Denver, Matt, because of marijuana?
Well, I mean, we were there during CBC. So, I mean, the beer culture in Denver during CBC is its own kind of thing. And I mean, I don't think that there was a noticeable impact, but I think that there were a lot of people that aren't from Colorado that were there that were like, oh yeah, well, while we're here, definitely going to go get some weed product or whatever. But I don't think that it didn't seem to be impacting people's want to go out to all the beer events that were there. Mm-hmm. But again, that's a special, it's a special couple of days there in Denver. I think if you're a regular tourist going to Denver, I think it would impact a little bit more. Like, you're maybe going to go get some product instead of going to the bar one night. Or maybe you'll do both, but maybe you'll spend a little bit less at the bar because you just spent, $50 at the weed shop or something like that. So I think it's going to impact everywhere. I don't know if it's going to impact hugely, but I think it's going to impact everywhere to some degree.
I think the biggest dilemma is going to be how breweries, brew pubs, restaurants, bars are going to be able to handle the consumer. Because if somebody comes into your bar and they've been partaking, what's the level? I know people personally, and literally not me, but I know people personally.
I know a guy.
This
You're
one
asking
really is.
for a friend.
This one really is like not me. I can handle my stuff. But
Stonehenge.
that have been to bars in Portland during a conference, and they partook of marijuana, and then they went to a bar and they wouldn't get served because there's a certain level of I think it'll be state to state and the liability, and some places you
and they could tell that this person was high when the bartender was just trained to look.
Yep, I think they're being trained to look, and he felt like it was an injustice, but there has to be a level.
I mean, from a bar standpoint,
who's the liability going to
exactly from the bar standpoint? You could have had the crazy syringe stuff that we were not talking about over the break, and you could be high out of your mind, have a beer, go get in your car, get in an accident. If there's, some alcohol in your system, then everybody's just going to, the lawyers, people like Andy, it's going to be an easier fight. There's alcohol in your system. Sue them. I advise you to sue that small business out of existence, or my name isn't Andy Crouch. I mean, I can just see that taking place. If I owned a bar where that was, where there were people coming in high all the time legally, I would be. I'd have to think about how.
Well,
I would
you
want
do
to
own
that.
a bar, and it's going to happen soon enough here in Illinois.
It sucks for people like me who look high all the time, but I'm not, because I was just born this way. I have sleepy eyes.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I did notice in previous trips to Denver, I was like, man, everyone here at these bars, they're just acting weird. Or it's like, I was like, no, the bar scene's weird here. The bar scene is weird. Like, I don't like it. And then someone was like, dude, everyone's high. And I was like, oh.
That's why there's no bar fights.
Wait,
That's why there's no.
I think one
boundaries.
difference, though.
Yeah.
One difference in
That's also.
What's up, Andy?
No, that's also why you're out there with 10,000 beer nerds basically at the same time, going to the same 12 bars or tap rooms, and it's like, imagine, do any of you guys decide to go out on St. Patrick's Day or New Year's Eve? These are traditionally known as maybe less educated,
amateur
less
hour.
experienced.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that's basically Denver or Portland during end of the CBCs or GABFs,
sure.
Because it's basically you get 10,000 out of town, drunk brewers on somebody else's dime, and all they can do is make a beeline to the pot shop. Even though during they've had recreational legalized pot in Denver probably for a decade now, close to a decade,
10 years probably.
Yeah, but when it's still a small portion of the country, I think once it becomes a ubiquitous product, it will itself mellow out, no pun intended, and kind of reach an even line. Just
I know
like
Matt
beer.
has something to say.
Oh,
but,
I was just going to say, like, one thing I noticed in Denver, like, call it 8 years ago or so when I was there walking down the streets of Denver, and everybody just openly, like, smoking in the streets, and I just smell it around every corner. That has changed with the abundance of new products, I think. Because I don't know that I smelled it once on this last trip anywhere.
I will say that I think that it's going to mellow out when it becomes legal. I think you're forgetting what country we live in. This is America. Everything is going to be marketed, sold, everything.
And controlled. I mean, people
and taxed.
big business is getting involved with this.
John
you know,
Boehner, the former Speaker of the House, is a partner in one of the largest cannabis medical cannabis companies in the country, and I'm sure when it becomes recreationally legal, they're not just like, oh, we're going to stick to medical. No, they're in it to make as much money as they possibly can. I don't know John Boehner personally, but I don't think that he's just in it to be altruistic. He used to be very anti, and now he's very pro. And I don't think it's because he had a come to Jesus moment. I think it's that he saw dollar signs, and that's just how it's going to go. So I think whether it works or not, people are certainly going to try to blow it up as big as they possibly can once it becomes federally legal, and then the banks can fund it and all that.
And
sort
there
of
are
stuff.
companies like worldwide, both on the distribution side and the supplier side, that are investing like big money.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah, companies like Marlboro whoever owns Marlboro, don't they already have patents on like trademarks on names, which we'll probably see on the marijuana cigarette packages in the future. Kind of just like toward the end of the Weeds TV show at the very end, and they're just buying a pack of weed cigarettes from the gas station.
I love you just said weed cigarettes. Some reefer madness.
Joints. Yeah.
So beer, does weed have anything to do with beer?
No.
Weed's going into beer.
Well,
It's an
I know
inebriant.
the thing that it does have. I mean,
It's going to go into everything, including
people who
apparently,
made-
according to you, Drew, suppositories.
I'm spacing, but the people who made, come on, the white ale.
Allagash?
No, from
Blue Moon.
Celis?
Yes.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
I mean,
Whoa.
like they've invested already. I mean,
the
they're
guy from Blue
making,
Moon.
you
Yeah.
know, CBD and THC. There are a lot of breweries that are involved, so I think it's definitely relevant.
Oh, yeah. What do you think, Andy? Is it going to have an effect?
People have been talking about this for like a couple of years now. I feel like we should have answered this question, but of course it's not. We have such a inconsistent rollout of pot across the country at this point that until it becomes, I mean, in certain markets, if you're in California, yeah, it's going to be a problem. If you're in Colorado, they've evened it out. The rest of the country, we're still so slow to it this does seem to be the marquee issue for every single conference. Like, magazines, everything seems to be covering it, but nobody knows. And I guess my point for if it's going to come into alcoholic beverages, I'm just curious about the flavor. I mean, we've had hemp in beer and people trying to put actually marijuana in beer for 20 years, probably longer than that with home brewers. But I don't know. I'm just curious to see if there's actually any flavor to it, experience from the beverage perspective. I know this is a show about beer, and we've talked about beer about 5 seconds in the last hour and 40 minutes. So
That's fine.
We've achieved something here. If we can keep going for the next 20 to talk about something else.
I'll try.
I was just going to say there are breweries like, I think, New Belgium and Sweetwater that have made a very pot-forward flavor kind of profile with their, that...
Those are good beers.
That people are like, yeah, this smells really good, but it smells a lot like... I mean, there's like a hesitation right now, I think, too, with like bars and restaurants carrying the product because they're like, it smells like weed, and then like, what is it going to do to my lines? Like, there's all sorts of concerns, even though, so I think it's relevant.
Yeah, no, I do, and I think it's I think it'll happen. I mean, it's going to happen here in Illinois, in most likely by the beginning of the year. I think it's the first state that's actually going to try to legislate it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to go well for you guys because you guys seem to be able to
Do anything.
We're
your
good at
governing.
government.
Listen,
All we got to do is open up governor's
fantastically.
prison, and we got lots of people who used to be in charge to help.
you're going to have I mean, it's going to be so corrupt.
So
It's going to be so corrupt.
we were a little off in the time on Colorado. They started legalization in 2014.
But they probably decriminalized it maybe.
2014.
Well, medical was there for a while longer
Feels-
before that, but
It seems way long. 2014. That seems like 5 years off. It seems so much longer. It seems so much, and that's the world we're in. Like there, so much has happened in craft beer in like 18 months or 6 months. You're like, that's in Chicago especially, where with every brewery opening and now seeing some closings. How about you guys talk about that? Tell me what's going on in Chicago in terms of, do you think we've hit a peak in terms of breweries? This is the part of the show where I take over for Chris
Go
because he
for it.
starts to bore me, so
Yeah.
I try to come up with new topics.
Yeah,
So,
do it.
Yeah, so and then before he reads the really boring letter that's going to come later.
Yeah.
So how are things in Chicago? You think there's going to be more openings, or do you think you finally hit a closing point on the
Oh, I know
on the north side with
a couple places that are opening.
I was going to say,
I'm about to say some places that maybe have abandoned the south side and decided that they're going to make their mark on the north side. I don't know. I read some stuff.
Yeah.
I read some stuff on the interwebs that maybe the sponsor of this radio station is abandoning his roots and
It's true.
trying to seek that green on the north side.
It's true, man. Whatever you read and however it's spun is definitely accurate. It's
all true.
It's all true.
But
Mars is
Tell me how
abandoning the
Chicago's
south
going.
side.
Tell me how things are going. Obviously, like Ed's going to go and make that money back.
I
up on
just
the North
said
Shore.
bloodbath. I mean, how many times do you want me to tell you how it's going? So there's been a couple breweries that have one notable brewery that has closed recently, which is Vice District. They closed. I don't know if it was because of pure industry things. I think there was definitely some infighting.
they opened up
there.
a second location. I think that probably didn't help.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Unless they moved. I don't think they moved. I think it was a complete second location.
Yeah.
So that didn't apparently go very well.
Yeah. I
There's a liquor store that's having an issue.
Yep, Westlake
right
View
now.
Liquors is closed. That's kind of
Are they still not open?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, I don't know.
Okay.
Heard anything, but
Okay, we'll stay. So basically, your city is falling into the lake.
Yes.
It's terrible.
just say if you know that they're done.
Yes.
You've reversed
You don't know?
the flow of the rivers, but apparently everything's just sinking back in the lake in terms of brewery wise. But
Yeah.
tell me the good news from Chicago. I miss it. I haven't been back. So tell me what's going on there.
So there's still a couple places that are opening up. There's a couple breweries in planning, and I know a lot of them are concentrated around couple certain neighborhoods like Logan Square and Wicker Park and that kind of area.
And we've seen some things out in the far suburbs because, space
Yeah.
is cheap out there for production and stuff like that.
And you're seeing expansions out there, too. So a lot of the suburban breweries are going to be opening up second locations, larger locations, satellite locations. And it seems to me like a lot is actually happening out in the suburbs. Maybe it's because they are historically like a couple years
Delayed.
There you go. Delayed. I didn't want to. That's a good way to put it. What were you going to say, Drew?
Well, things move from
delayed
the
works.
Yeah.
Things move from the epicenter outwards. So if Chicago proper is where everything really blew up because you had the population that was into beer, you definitely, I think, now you're seeing, because the space that I think is still available to brewers are for your local breweries, the types of places who aren't trying to distribute. They're making beer and food for their local communities, because I'll tell you, from our standpoint at Leaders, we get emails every week about somebody planning a brewery in this suburb or that suburb. And then what's happening, too, is the folks that are in the suburbs are starting to open up their second brewery locations inside of Chicago,
Right.
realizing that if they don't expand their retail presence inside of Chicago, that they'll start losing because they're not inside of Chicago. So you see people expanding to try to survive, and that can be scary.
The other thing I've noticed is that the suburbs are just like ravenous to get breweries in. I know of several municipalities that are offering, really sweet deals, really looking for breweries to come in. And then I was looking at some real estate listings just the other day here in Chicago, and there were some buildings, and it said
Perfect for a brewery.
like brewery approved or something like brewery zoning approved. And all that stuff. So they're like marketing these big open spaces because they want breweries. And I would think, Andy, it's because there's like some sort of cachet. It's cool to have a brewery in your neighborhood.
Crime. They've done studies. There's lower crime in areas with breweries.
Brings people
And
from
brew
out of
pubs.
town in who spend money.
Destination.
Yeah.
Good for businesses all around. But I also think that what's happening right now is there's this false sense of growth and success with a lot of the local where some people are
Why
growing.
false? Yeah.
Well, some people are growing because they need to in order to grow, like in the same way that they're, I would call it exporting to other states if they're local. Most people do that like 10 years ago to grow.
Right. Pipe fill.
And
now.
what's happening is that a lot of places that some of the local breweries that are doing that, nobody cares if they come to your state, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, let's ask.
it's a hard thing right now because like that used to be like a Band-Aid for some people. It depends on your cash flow.
Opening up a new market,
Yeah,
you mean?
opening a new market, opening a new location like brick and mortar. But that's like, it depends on, are you independently wealthy in doing this? Or, how's your relationship with your bank right now? Do you owe money? Like some of these are forced. And there's also a lot of, you'll see a lot of small self-distributed people going to distributors for the financial gain that comes with
The
that
one-time
relationship.
drop, of cash from hiring the or acquiring the rights, because you do get, if you have to pay some loans.
That's how a lot of really great breweries have been able to expand and build their breweries.
Yes, and some of them are even now still doing quite well. Andy, so I think one of the most interesting breweries is in your neck of the woods. That's Night Shift, who has been growing leaps and bounds. They've been doing the light lager thing and just calling it like light lager, going right after the light guys. Now they're doing like a nightlight lime, so they're doing the lime light lager thing, and now they're also going to be doing canned coffee and seltzer, hard seltzer. And they're growing by leaps and bounds. What's the vibe that they're of like locally and just for you yourself with Night Shift? Because I think they're one of the most interesting to me breweries to watch right now in the country.
I think you're exactly right, and I think it's interesting because everybody hates Night Shift because these are a bunch of, I think, still sub 30-year-old guys, three partners who started this company. I don't. If you're telling me that what we talked about earlier, weed has only been legal in Denver for 5 years or whatever it was, which seems ridiculous, then these guys feel like they've been in business for even less time than that. But they haven't. I went to their place where they were a nano in the outskirts of Boston, and they were making poison. They basically made poison for 2 straight years.
A lot of sour beers.
Bad sour, terrible sour beer, terrible barrel-aged stuff. It was all done on basically oversized lobster pots. But from there, they graduated to a 20-barrel system, and their marketing was amazing. Their logo was amazing. Their outreach, their social media before social media was even really a huge thing for breweries was great. All their merchandising, they did a great job. And so even though the beer wasn't good, they had built that fan base, and people were excited about them. And then they moved out a little further out in Boston, and everyone's like, no one is ever going to go to that space. And I got to tell you, they've expanded and expanded and expanded, and there's a line out the door, not because they're making hazies or anything. They're making pretty normal standard fare beer, not New England-style IPA at all. And they're making a lot of German-style stuff. People just flock to the location. And
it's cool because they're cool.
Well, it's not even that. They're doing a good job They do community programming. But they've been smart. But you're right. They have now, as they've gotten bigger, they're now besides the fact that they opened a new location near where the Celtics and the Bruins play, and it's expensive in downtown Boston, so they got themselves a space. But you're right. They are also these 30-year-old smart guys who I've talked to them, they've had meetings with large breweries, large international breweries. They wanted to buy them or thought about buying them. And they're like, it's just not us. We just own the place. Like, we're happy. What are we going to do with, they could get, I don't even know,
Millions.
$150, $200 million for the brewery, something like that. And they're three guys. They're like, what are we going to do for the next 70 years? Like, this is the best job we've ever had. So they've been slowly building it, taking good care of their employees. But you're right, the Night Light series, which is one of the first craft beer light lagers. So they do it in 6-packs, pounder 16-ounce cans for $4.99.
Wow.
There's almost nobody doing it. And then
How is that
six
working
months
for
later,
them?
they're
Yeah.
like, you know what's? They're blasting it out. They're just doing it. They're making so much money. They're in-house. They might make I don't even know 30,000 barrels, but they may Treehouse sell most of that in-house on tap. So they're making so much money. They're like, we can do this other play. So imagine if Treehouse decided they were going to make a macro lager and sell it for less than $1 a can.
Right.
That's basically what it's crazy. And then they're like, we're going to up it from there. We're going to take on Bud Light Lime by making Night Limelight is the name of the beer.
Limerita.
And so it's it's clever, it's great packaging, it's beautiful packaging, and it's cheap as can be. And you want to if you find me at a party, I'm more than happy to drink that over any of the Sam Adams / Dogfish Head seltzer beers that I'm going to get. So they're also doing their own distribution.
They are.
They're
That's right. They are.
Yeah.
Yep.
So brands from Illinois will come, or from Chicago or Illinois will come
Pipeworks is
in.
with them. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't require any exclusivity.
Really?
They're just like, hey, come in with us. We'll hang.
Uh-huh.
We'll have a good time. We'll get you in our bars, and if you like us, guess what? You'll stay with us. If you don't like us, then you'll go elsewhere, like every other business under the sun works, with the exception of the liquor industry.
Huh.
So basically, they have dozens and dozens of brands that they distribute, and people seem pretty happy. So,
And you're fans of them, huh? Sounds like you're.
no, actually, I'm not crazy about the beer. I think the beer's really, really boring, and their German styles are terrible.
But
So
as a
with that
company,
said,
you're excited about them. It sounds like you're excited. Yeah.
love it. They're doing a great job, and they just moved into coffee. So in the Boston area, they're doing a great job.
Cool. That's good to hear. That's nice to hear. I'm glad. I'm glad you talked about that. So we're about out of time. But is there anything people would like to say in closing? Matt, you were waving to me with 5 fingers open. I assumed as you were trying to say hi or you wanted to say something.
Should I have done like this?
Oh, maybe. Yes.
That's really what I was giving you.
Well, do you want to make up for your lackluster?
Producer Anna has to
introducing?
learn
Yeah.
that she needs to punch you in the face.
Yeah, not in the face,
The nuts.
not in the nuts. No.
The neck.
Yes, the neck.
Talking about the beer that smelled
Yeah.
like peanuts.
Right.
Yes.
So that's okay. So that's what
what I
you'd
have
like
to say.
say.
True.
Well, you said you were going to say something at the end, but maybe not. All right.
No.
All right. True.
Because I'm pompous enough to give advice to the world, what I would like to say is for all the owners and managers out there, remember who is greeting your clients, serving your clients, taking your clients' money, and giving your clients a good or bad experience is your team. If you treat them poorly, you will have a business that suffers. So take care of the people who take care of you, and treat the people whose job you want the least the best.
All right. Here. And Carrie, anything for you?
Oh, I was just going to read a headline.
Sure.
Pabst partners with Against the Grain on sales, marketing, and distribution in Kentucky.
We're going to need another hour.
Yeah.
So that's food for thought. But also, I think that another good topic, maybe for another show, would be talking about the direction that how beer is going to be sold, like through Amazon and Target and some of those delivery methods. Because as you look at, we talk a lot about the, top 50, those decisions are going to be made by people outside of even the craft brewers.
Jeff Bezos is going to be controlling the set captain. All right. And we got 10 seconds. What do you want to say, Andy? Anything? All right,
Andy's frozen.
I don't hear. Yeah, he's now his thing doesn't work. He's
He
saying,
gave a thumbs up.
"You're right, Chris."
I'm saying
what's
thank
up?
you. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully this episode doesn't get spiked.
It won't. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Don't forget about the letters. We're still giving away those T-shirts and the reviews and stuff like that. See you next week. Bye. All right.
Yeah, we didn't.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. Never be heard, seen from again, 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 again.